My wife slept with her ex on our wedding day, thinking I'd never find out. Now she's left standing alone at the altar as I walked away. Hey Reddit. I always imagined my wedding day would be one of the happiest days of my life. I had it all planned out, the perfect ceremony, the perfect reception, surrounded by family and friends. But what I didn't expect was that it would be the day I found out that my wife had betrayed me in the worst way possible. We had been together for 5 years. From the outside, everything looked perfect. We had the kind of relationship that people envied, filled with love, trust, and what I thought was mutual respect. I met Emma in college, and we clicked immediately. She was funny, smart, and beautiful, and I couldn't imagine my life without her. We moved in together after graduation, built a life, and got engaged a year ago. It felt like everything was falling into place, and I couldn't have been happier. The wedding planning process was intense, of course, but Emma was the one who took the reins. I didn't mind, I trusted her taste, and everything seemed to be coming together perfectly. My family adored her, and her family was equally fond of me. There wasn't a single sign of trouble. But there's something about big events that bring out the truth, and I was about to learn the hard way that Emma had been hiding something huge from me. It all started the night before the wedding. We had the typical rehearsal dinner, everyone was drinking, laughing, and toasting to the big day. I noticed that Emma was a little distant, but I brushed it off. She'd been stressed lately with last-minute details, and I figured she just needed some space to unwind. We went back to our hotel suite afterward, and I could tell she was nervous, but she assured me everything would be perfect. We kissed goodnight, and I thought nothing of it. What happened next still feels like a nightmare I can't wake up from. The morning of our wedding, I woke up to an unexpected text message. It was from a number I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was just someone wishing us well for the day. But when I opened it, I found something that I would never have imagined. It was a photo of Emma, in bed with someone else. I froze. I knew the man in the picture. His name was Alex, her ex. I had heard about him before, but I had always believed it was just some past fling that Emma had moved on from. She'd told me he was nothing more than a chapter in her life, and I trusted her. But there it was, undeniable evidence of her betrayal, and it was on the day of our wedding. The text didn't just contain the photo. It had a message too. I thought you should know before you make a huge mistake today. My heart sank. My stomach turned. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what to do or who to turn to. The trust I had in Emma shattered in an instant. She had slept with her ex, and not just any day, the day before our wedding. The day she was supposed to be marrying me. I had to confirm it. I had to know for sure. So I called the number back, hands shaking as I held my phone. A man's voice answered on the other end, and before I could say anything, he spoke. "Is this her fiancé?" he asked. I could hear the smugness in his voice. I barely managed to choke out a response. "Yes. Who is this?" "I'm Alex. I'm sure you know who I am. I just thought you should know what your fiancé has been up to. You're about to marry someone who doesn't deserve you." I couldn't breathe. I felt dizzy. My whole world was crashing down in that moment. Alex went on to describe everything, how they had reconnected a few weeks before the wedding, how Emma had invited him to stay over the night before our wedding, how they had spent the night together. She had lied to me about everything, and it was all coming out now. My first instinct was to call her. To confront her. But I didn't want to hear her lies. I didn't want to give her the chance to explain away her actions. I felt so disgusted, so betrayed. I knew what I had to do. I went to the wedding venue alone, telling no one what had happened. I wasn't sure if I could go through with it, but I felt like I had to. I didn't know if it was some form of closure I was seeking, or if I was just in shock. But as I stood at the back of the venue, watching everyone take their seats, I made my decision. I was going to walk out. The ceremony was about to begin. Emma, radiant in her white gown, stood at the altar. The officiant was preparing to start the vows. I looked at her, and for the first time, I felt nothing but emptiness. She looked so happy, but I knew the truth now. I couldn't marry her. I couldn't stand there and pretend that everything was fine when I knew what she had done. I waited for the right moment, and when it came, I took a deep breath, turned, and walked out of the venue. The gasps from the guests were deafening, but I didn't care. I could hear Emma's voice calling after me, but I didn't turn back. I heard her footsteps as she rushed toward me, but I still didn't look back. When I reached the door, I paused for a second, feeling her presence behind me. She was there, pleading, trying to stop me, but the damage was done. Her betrayal had ruined everything, and I couldn't stand there any longer, trapped in a lie. I walked out, and I left her there. Alone. She texted me a few hours later, but I didn't respond. The anger inside me was boiling over, but I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing she still had any control over me. She sent multiple messages, trying to explain, but I couldn't bring myself to read them. I felt numb. My heart was broken, and yet I felt like a weight had been lifted. I had been holding on to this relationship, this dream of a future with her, but now it was gone. She had ruined it. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, not knowing what to do with myself. The wedding I had envisioned was a complete disaster, and I didn't know how I would face my friends and family. But deep down, I knew I had made the right choice. No one deserves to be with someone who betrays them like that. No one deserves to stand at the altar and marry someone who doesn't respect them. The next few weeks were hard. Emma tried to contact me multiple times, even showing up at my apartment, but I refused to speak with her. She had no right to explain herself. There was no excuse for what she did. I'm still trying to heal, trying to pick up the pieces of my life. It's been tough, but I know I'm better off without her. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing: I will never again ignore the warning signs, and I'll never let anyone treat me the way Emma did. As for Emma, I have no idea what she's doing now. I don't care. She made her choices, and now she has to live with them. She'll never get me back. And as for me? I'm moving on. I'm better than this.